Welcome to this second installment of Pocket Change. In this installment, we'll look at need and vision from my model on change management, and I will also give you a practical tool that you can use, you can employ almost immediately. So let's get on with it. Why do we have changes in organizations? Well, there's been research on this, and there are all kinds of sort of the top reasons. The top reasons are merger and acquisition, you get a new CEO, that you need to digitize the organization, some kind of change in processes and an IT. There's a growth push, and maybe it's a combination of a bunch of these together. And this drives some sort of need for change. But one of the things that you're going to have to do is make sure that not only do you clearly understand the need, but that you can articulate the need, because that's going to be coming up in the communications aspect of change. I remember when I started my career in training and development, my boss asked me, he said, "Why do you have these courses in our corporate university?" And I started to blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, I want one sentence per course. Why do we have that course in one sentence? And what he forced me to do was really think about, what is it that we really have? Why are what is the need? So being able to articulate the need. And I'm going to give you 5 things that will really help you out on that. So the first one is there really a gap? Is there a gap that people agree on between the current state and what we actually need? Is there a way to measure this? Is there a way to tell people about this? Maybe the organization's already screaming for a solution. But this is the concept of discrepancy. Is there a discrepancy between what we have and what we actually need? That's one area you can look for when crafting your need understanding. The second part I might give you for a need is our approach the correct one? Is it the appropriate approach? Are the actions we are taking actually going to address and solve the problem? And you need to be able to explain to people why that would be the case, because very, very often it isn't. Much of the merger and acquisition, much of the big changes in organizations are due to executive boredom. So there's a whole pool of research on that, and we won't go into it. But sometimes we're not always doing things for all the right reasons, or the right reasons of this is our strategy or this is our culture. We come up with a bunch of other things, and we don't have compelling reasons to help people really understand the need. So make sure that people understand there's a discrepancy, and make sure that they understand that whatever you want to do, it is appropriate. The third thing is efficacy. Will this actually make the whole thing better? It may be appropriate and there may be a discrepancy, but will we actually get the work done that we need to get done? And can we do it? So are we doing the right thing, and are we doing the right thing right? And that is efficacy. And then, like we talked in the last video about DICE, do we have senior management backing for this? How often have there been changes and the people in the organization weren't really behind it? A lot. How often have there been changes and upper management wasn't really behind it? A lot. So do we believe that the leaders in our company are actually standing behind this? And again, we're already linking this to communicating the vision and communication toward the organization about what kind of change there's going to be. This is the moment to really get these things stuck in the head of your team and the guiding coalition, so that we can explain these things coherently and clearly to the rest of the organization. And finally, Valence. Is this going to be good for me? Is it going to be good for the people who it's being rolled out to? And very often, yeah, well, that's not really clear. It's very difficult to quantify how this will affect people. How will it affect them? Will it actually be good for them? Do we have a good story that people can understand and in a way live in? Or are we just throwing out some very vague generalizations about will be better and the future will be brighter and your jobs will be more secure? So think about these things as a whole. So make sure that you have the discrepancy, that we know there's a gap. We have an appropriate approach to it. Uh, it should be effective. We're going to do the right thing in the right way. Upper management is standing behind this, and it's going to be good for the organization. All of those should be built into the need. And of course, I'm saying the need and the vision at the same time because these things are stuck together like this. The vision is just the big, hairy goal at the end. What is the on the horizon place that we want to be? So we have the vision. That's what. This is the measurement we'll have when we're done and we know we have succeeded. The need is what we're going to communicate to the organization, how we're going to persuade people, how we're going to get people behind it, how we're going to justify the budget expenditures and all that kind of stuff as well. So getting the need and the vision in one clear and coherent statement is an important part of the preparation for your large strategic change. So for your practical tool, I'd like to give you what you're going to need in doing the need and vision stuff, and that is a stakeholder analysis. There are many ways to do this. Between us, if you just sit down with your team and just have a nice, good discussion over a beer about this, you'll probably come a long way. But if you need to, actually put something down on paper, you'll need to show it to other people, you need to justify things, you need to do all these kind of things, I've got a pretty nice little tool for you. So there are two axes in this model. One is how antagonistic or how sympathetic is this group to us? So are there people who are antagonistic towards us, and are there people that are sympathetic towards us? I'm using an example from my years in the fish business, and that was called marine harvest. And we did fish, we did salmon. And so we had to figure out who is for us in a way and who's against us. And some of the NGOs were very much against us, and some other parties were very much for us. The other axis that you would put right in the middle of this is what kind of involvement do they have with our business? And then you can start to map the different stakeholders. So we've got, are they for us? Are they against us? How much involvement they have in the business. And then as you're putting down these little groups of people on this chart, you can make the size of the circle that they're in, how much influence they have on the whole process of your change or of your industry or whatever it is that you're trying to get done. Now, that's very nice, and it leads to these kinds of little areas where back in my days in the fish business, we knew that some of the NGOs are not for us. They are not for us at all, and in some other areas, some other stakeholders, they were very much for us. And then who has the most influence on our business? Now, that makes for a nice little chart of our stakeholders and who's for us, who's against us, who's involved, and how much influence do they have. That's really great. And one last step, and just sit down with your team and do this on a flip over. Grab a marker and just, this is a quick thing to do. Once you've got these balls down, once you've got these different stakeholders and mapped, and you know how influential they are, Then draw lines between them to show who's connected to whom. And you may find that some of the people who are quite antagonistic to you are intimately connected to some of the people that are for you, and vice versa. So I hope that's a helpful little thing. Just do for and against us. What's their involvement? What's their influence and the size of the ball? And then, as one last thing, maybe you could put, here's a thicker line between these two. Here's a thinner line. Here's even a dotted line because we're not really sure that there's any relationship between them. But this makes for a very good way to present your results of stakeholder analysis, and allows you to put this into reports or requests for additional budget and that sort of thing. So that's it for this second video of pocket change. Next time we'll be getting into how you set up the guiding coalition. Until then.